Logan Paul basically gets called out and criticized by Ludwig, and we're going to get into it. But for those that aren't aware about the situation, pretty much Logan Paul created this crypto zoo play to earn crypto slash game kind of thing, which is pretty much allegedly a massive scam. And basically, none of it works. It never really did work. A lot of people have been getting rug pulled. A lot of the founders of the game, Logan Paul included, basically screwed over one another. Like, it's a really crazy thing. Like, there's even some people that basically bought some of the items for the game and basically lost everything or can't even use it. But let's do a really quick summary of it. So, recently, a YouTuber by the name of CoffeeZilla, who makes awesome content, made a three-part expose and it shed light on the failure of CryptoZoo. CryptoZoo advertised itself as a fun game and claimed to provide its users with a way to earn money, which is always a sketchy thing. Logan was involved with the project and heavily promoted the game, and it led to many of his fans investing in the game. And a lot of issues that came about this is like a lot of people had this weird misconception that just because Logan Paul is already filthy rich, that there's no reason why he would end up screwing his like fans. But the reality is, just because you're rich doesn't mean that you now have like a moral code. Like, hey, guess what? There's a lot of rich people who are straight up scumbags. You got to keep in mind too, this individual, while he was a millionaire and all that kind of stuff, filmed a dead body of a person who offed themselves and made a joke about it. Okay? He was already a millionaire back then and still was a scumbag, right? So just because you're rich doesn't mean anything. But basically, users had to buy eggs and breed the animals that hatched from them. And after breeding the animals, their eggs became unique NFTs. So there were many users who thought of it as an effective way to earn money in online currency. But shortly after the game launched, users found out they were not able to cash out the prizes. Although Logan repeated many times on various platforms that his newly hired team was working to fix it, the issue is not resolved, still has not been resolved, basically hasn't done really anything to actually improve the situation at all. And CoffeeZilla also exposed that Logan's company did not pay the new engineers for over a month, and it led to them quitting. So it appears that users will lose millions upon millions of their money on it, and the estimates put it around $40 million. Right, and also Andrew Tate calls him a scumbag, whatever. But let's actually like check this out too, right? Let's check out what actually Ludwig, who's also a massive influencer, who's filthy rich as well, his point of view on it. So let's do full screen. Let's see, volume.
I feel like Logan Paul likes money too much.
I agree. I think Logan Paul likes money too much as well.
Does he know he's gonna die? He knows that, right? He's gonna die.
See, the thing is, like, I understand where Ludwig is coming from. It's like, oh yeah, doesn't he realize that he's gonna die? Wouldn't he have some sort of like moral compass at the very least, knowing like, oh yeah, I'm gonna pass away eventually. Why am I gonna be like a dick while still being alive? The only problem with that, I have an odd feeling that Logan Paul is one of those individuals that are very wealthy that are basically willing to do whatever it takes to pretty much become immortal, right? Like, will literally try probably anything to become immortal. Like, his mind is pretty warped.
He's already rich. What else do you need? You have like 50 million, probably.
Now, here's the thing. Logan Paul probably actually has way more than $50 million. I believe in a podcast like literally years ago, he mentioned that he made, I think, over $50 million profit in just his clothing line when he was like vlogging like on a daily basis. I believe in that like a year alone he made like 30 to $50 million profit. Not to mention all this like YouTube ad revenue, not to mention all the sponsorships. I mean, he had sponsors before for like a 30-second clip where he even talked about it, where he got paid like $250,000 for that 30-second clip. So I would not be surprised if at this moment Logan Paul probably has close to 300 to 400 million dollars in like cash, right? Unless he's just a complete moron with his money too, which could be the case. But like the thing is, just because a rich person has a lot of money doesn't mean that stops them from screwing someone else for even more money. Now, personally, I don't really understand it. It's like, to me, after a certain point of money, in terms of like what you make per year or per month or whatever, you're pretty much just moving on to a bigger box to live in, a bigger box or nicer box to drive in. Like, what more is there really at the end of the day? Like, yeah, you could take care of your family, but after that, okay, you could maybe take care of people you just are friends with, maybe acquaintances, maybe giving money to like homeless people. Like after a certain point, the like maybe the money is just like a game thing. It's just weird.
All right, you're probably gonna sell Prime and get like 100 million.
Now that's also interesting too because also I'm like chopping this up just because like YouTube's really weird and like we'll screw around with this sort of stuff. But he's not a majority owner in Prime. I'm pretty certain. I believe both him and KSI are basically just like faces of the company of Prime, but not like majority like shareholders of Prime. I'm thinking maybe they got like 20 to 33% each, maybe. Like that's a big maybe. So if they do end up selling Prime in total for like $1 billion for like an exit, maybe they'll make 200 million, maybe they'll make about 330 million, maybe, like who knows. But the thing is, if Logan Paul just was not a like greedy moron, he would literally be making hundreds of millions of dollars every single year for pretty much the rest of his life. But he just can't stop himself from doing something so stupid. And also, not even making it right to the people that got screwed over.
100 million. You live in Puerto Rico, so you pay 10% income taxes, and you take boats back to the United States.
Now, here's the thing. I believe the 10% income tax is actually incorrect. I believe if you do it right in Puerto Rico, you're paying more like, I think, I could be wrong. I think it might be about 2.5% in taxes. Like, it's something crazy. Like, literally crazy.
You can still work while living there for 6 months, living there, quote unquote. Why this? It seems so extra to me. I don't get it. I wish I could understand his motivations and why they are so driven by money. People are greedy. I get greed. I just don't get it after you have $10 million.
And that's an interesting point, right? Because here's the thing, and a lot of people don't really understand this. After a certain level of money, you can already experience pretty much every aspect of life that is like unavailable to the majority of people, which is funny enough about that $10 million mark. Like, and here's the thing, you could even experience pretty much what the super rich experience making maybe about like $1 million a year. Like, if you keep your expenses typically low, like to like live on, like let's say like your house payment is pretty low, whatever, like your monthly expenses just to survive is very low and you're making $1 million, you could literally experience basically billionaire's lifestyle on $1 million. You could fly in private jets. You could go to five-star hotels. You could pretty much go to every single country you want to. You could probably go to some crazy country that will literally let you buy like a whole nation in there. Like, the amount of money that you actually need to do some of the craziest stuff in the world is really not actually that much. And the reality for the majority of the population, especially in the United States, once you get past making like $100,000 after taxes per year and you got no debt, what are you striving so hard for massive amounts of money for? Because you don't necessarily really worry about anything at that point. You could pretty much live anywhere, you could pretty much experience anything, you could pretty much drive anything, you could live in pretty much any house or apartment that you really want to. Like, you probably have a free time as well, which is also very important. Like, after a certain point, what's the motive to make even more and more and more and more money to the point where you're willing to screw people over?
For $50 million. After that amount, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, get a fancy car if you want. Get like a big ass mansion. Get two. And off. Like, what else do you need?
Feel free to give your thoughts on that. Right, so let's see. Logan is exceptionally greedy. Fans shared their reaction to Ludwig's take on crypto scam allegations. Fans were vocal in their opinions regarding Logan Paul's latest controversy. The latter is no stranger when it comes to finding himself in a pickle, and here are some of the relevant reactions from fans. It's wild how much effort CoffeeZilla put into exposing the scam. Logan is rich, yet still does this. Logan is exceptionally greedy. Ludwig about to go crazy when he learns about billionaires. Logan Paul knows people die. He laughs at it though. Ooh, that's a good joke. When is Logan Paul not in drama? It's crazy. I thought this guy had actually done quite a bit to rehab his image in the last few years. Certainly more than his brother had, anyhow. Now, here's the problem, right? The problem with the way Logan Paul basically goes about his whole thing is like he's not a person that actually cares about other people like at all, right? And I checked out some of his podcasts before, and like early on into his impulsive podcast thing, he even talked about where his closest friends, he would simply like not have like any empathy towards his friends when they're like facing something bad, facing something kind of like serious, maybe they're like depressed or something. Like he had no feelings towards them basically at all. Had like no empathy toward them, did not feel bad about them, and just basically tried to like toss like a Rolex at one of his buddies who was going through a pretty hard time, like mentally and all that kind of stuff, right? It's like to him, to Logan Paul, based off his history and whatnot, he just views things in like a very cold viewpoint. Like, it's either red or yellow, there's no in between, right? Or I should probably say there's no, it's either blue or yellow, but there's no green. Meaning there's no in between, there's no mixing of the thing. It's like black and white, just no middle ground. And he took it to like an extremely far point because he tried to correct his image by being very woke when it was all fake as well. Like every aspect of Logan Paul and his whole thing is very fake. I mean, for goodness sakes, he's now in the WWE, which is one of the fakest sports ever, right? Which, by the way, is a very entertaining sport, but fake. Beyond fake. But yeah, feel free to give your thoughts on this. It's just like, to me, it's also hard for me to understand what motivates someone to do this when they are super rich because again, like after a certain point, after you have enough money where literally money is not an issue for you anymore in any sense at all for the rest of your life, why are you willing to like stoop so low to screw people over? And by the way, he could have created a good game and actually made it have a lot of money making opportunities for him in a very legal way. Like what he could have done was quite literally make an app of a game similar to Pokemon where you just go and do this weird zoo egg thing, right? And then you have in app purchases that people could just buy for real cash for things inside the game. All legal, not scammy, purely a game, and you don't make any sort of like guarantee or something like, oh yeah, you could play it and earn money. Like, he could have done this the right way, legally, probably have made 100 million plus from an actual app, and yet he just wanted to make quick money and screw a whole bunch of people, allegedly, right? So, I don't know. If you stumble upon this, feel free to give your thoughts. I just think it's like depressingly stupid that he does this.